Okay, so we'll move on to our next film, which is the film Noir pick. And this is the list you can find on our website at realfilmsnobs.com. This week's pick is Angel Face by director Otto Preminger from 1953. And it's about an ambulance driver named Frank Jessup, played by Robert Mitchum. Yes, I think we could have a Robert Mitchum movie in every episode, but maybe. And he is ensnared by the femme fatale Diane Tremaine, played by Jean Simmons. And I don't really want to give away too much more than that, but needless to say, she is a spoiled girl, and she has certain things that she wants Robert Mitchum for to help her accomplish with her stepmother, who she does not like.
Oh, come on, it's a film noir. We all know what happens. She doesn't like somebody, she's going to ensnare some dude to help her off somebody. That's what happens in these movies.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what women do, right? I mean, that's...
No,
right?
not really, no.
Okay.
But this is, I thought this, okay, Robert Mitchum, very different casting for him, because he's usually, I mean, it's different in that he's usually, like in Out of the Past, he's so tough and everything.
He's usually 2 steps ahead of everybody else.
Yeah, this one he's not so much.
He kind of has an idea, but
Yeah.
he is just so easygoing and laid back. And
well, and he's like, Jean
himself.
Simmons is really hot in this movie. She's a good-looking woman.
Yeah.
I mean, they both look great in this movie. And, you know, he does keep telling her, I know what you're doing, and I'm not going to be part of it. And he tries to get out of it, but he ends up...
Just goes right along.
Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt, but I'm gonna. You know, he always has a very laid-back persona, and he certainly always has a look on his face that, and that really, he really plays it up in this, but he just kind of goes along with things. Jean Simmons, who I'm a big fan of, and the more and more I see her, she was in The Big Country, which is one of my favorites. The Robe, and of course she was in Hamlet, where she played Ophelia with Solange Olivier. She was also in Dark Shadows. She played Elizabeth Stoddard, which I'll tell you more after the show. There's a reason for that. But she does a great job of playing the spoiled brat that kind of is able to manipulate men by, you know, being very passive-aggressive. And that's not an easy role to play. I mean, it could easily be campy. It could be over the top. And with Preminger and her, they really kind of, they play it nicely. We know what's going to happen. We know what's going on. And in some ways, so does Mitchum.
And she even gets sort of sympathetic towards the end when things go wrong. You sort of feel for her. I felt for her for a little while because, you know, I thought, oh, well, she really didn't mean maybe for what actually happened to happen all the way.
Oh,
but
yes.
then the ending, and I'm not going to say what the ending is, but this has one of the most, I mean, I've seen a lot of film noirs this summer between our movies and my class I was taking, and I've seen a lot of film noirs. This is one of the most wicked endings I've ever seen in a movie. So if you like just a really, just pow, like just I don't even know how to describe it, just an ending that socks you in the gut, then this is the movie to see. It's just amazing.
I also enjoyed the scenes with the lawyer. Anytime that the lawyer was on the screen, if there's any law students out there or people who hate lawyers, this is the movie for you. I love how he's able to try and manipulate the cases and trying to do things. Those are great. And the first accident that happens to her stepmother, when that unfolds and she's telling a story, that's another great scene. There are just some fantastic scenes in this film.
Really,
just absolutely amazing.
So 4 stars.
Easily.
Yes, 4-star movie. So I think our first one so far to this day. So we will move on now to the list, and this is the list of movies that Brian and I are working on our website, and this is the list of what we're calling obscure buried treasures, meaning very difficult to find movies. You will have to be literally like someone out there digging into archives of films to find some of these, and this is one of them. Antonia, Portrait of the Woman. This is a 1974 documentary about the symphony conductor Antonia Bricco, and it's a lot of the film focuses on her struggle against gender bias in her profession. Still to this day, most major symphonies don't have female conductors, and it's definitely a movie for music lovers, I would say. And it was directed by Judy Collins, the singer-songwriter, and Jill Godmillo, who was actually the one that did the technical filmmaking part of it. It was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Documentary Feature, and it has been selected for preservation in the National Film Registry. And why it's not available anywhere, even though it's in the National Film Registry and the National Film Archive, I have no idea, because it is really hard to find. Let me tell you, we struggled on this one to find this movie.
This is a great documentary. It's only a little over or under an hour, and aside from one scene where there's a little animated playfulness that I really didn't. That's the only misstep in the whole movie, and that's like 2 seconds, so it's nothing to worry about. This is absolutely amazing, and they concentrate, certainly they're trying to show this woman who's had this great career, she's had some great triumphs, and of course it's very hard for her because she's a woman, blah, 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 blah. There are some hidden treasures here, which she talks about. They don't necessarily focus on. They just let her talk. These are interviews. She is a great manipulator of publicity. When she put together, there's all these women who were musicians, and she obviously didn't have an orchestra, so she puts together an all-female orchestra. Well, then she goes to the papers and say, listen, sex has nothing to do with a great symphony. Great symphonies are sexless. Then they show these clippings of the titles. You put sex in there, your mind goes right to it. Then she challenges other male musicians against her female music. She does a great job of bringing awareness to the, running the publicity. And so I loved that. That was absolutely fantastic. But there is a scene where it hit me like a tuning fork, and it hasn't left me since, when she talks about the fact that a piano player can go home and play the piano. A violinist can do that. They can go home and play theirs. Her instrument is the orchestra. She cannot take that home. She does not have that at all times. It takes too much money, too many people, da-da-da-da.
Right.
And she talked about at one point in time where she only had 5 or 6 performances a year. What she was put on this earth to do, what she is a conductor. And she could only do it 5 or 6 times a year, or others would have it 5 or 6 times a month. That really struck me. Some people have a calling in life. Some people never find it. She has one, and she can't grasp it. It's in front of her face. That struck me right to the core, and it just blew me away.
I thought it was a great movie as well. My one issue with it, at the very beginning, I got a little bit confused, and partially we were watching sort of an old VHS copy, so I'm not sure if it was just the dialogue. I was wanting a little bit more background, like on how she even became a conductor, because it was so unusual, and they don't get into that until much later. So sort of the chronology of things, I was sort of confused throughout the film a little bit. And there was a lot of scenes of her just sort of playing with her students, and I would have liked more scenes. Well, some of that is good because it actually gets into actual music, but they overdubbed those scenes instead of showing her actually talking through what she was actually teaching them. They overdubbed it with, some music, and I would have preferred they just show her teaching more. So that was just one sort of criticism on that. On the other hand, I just thought the subject matter was fascinating. I didn't know anything about this woman, and I thought the whole issue of gender bias was interesting in the fact that she, even, here years later, I mean, she started in the 30s, was sort of her peak. She was like really big in the 30s in terms of when she was most active. I mean, she conducted the Berlin Orchestra, and of course in Manhattan, and most of the major orchestras in the world, but she had to fight for every one of those, and often had to pay her own way to get in to conduct the orchestra because they wouldn't let her in. And then here she was in the 70s, and she was conducting an orchestra in Colorado that was like a community symphony because she had been brought out to Denver because she'd been promised a job with the major Denver Symphony, and then they took the job away, something they kind of allude to in the film, but because she couldn't get into the all-male country club, and that was expected of conductors to schmooze with donors for symphonies, then she lost the job. And it's sort of, so there's some scenes, but the nice thing about it, she's a very humorous character, she's very funny, and there's only one scene where she gets really enraged, and it's the one you were talking about, the really powerful scene where she talks about she's really angry that she's not able to do more performances.
And then she would talk about after the performance, and she knew that was going to be it for a while, for months, or who knows how long when the next gig was. And she would talk about how it was all this built up, and after the performance, she would literally go into just a depression. It was so hard. And that's what, is seeing somebody that's just full of passion, that has found their purpose and is working so hard to that. You so many times you see in films, and it's about bank robbers or it's about doctors, and that's fine, and that's interesting stuff. But it's really great to see a documentary about a person who just has a love and a passion in life. That's amazing.
Yeah, and isn't necessarily a tortured genius that's a jerk. I mean, a lot of the movies we see about artists, they're insane, they're alcoholics, they're drug addicts, they beat their wife, sometimes all of those in the case of Pollock or whatever, I mean, and then here's someone who's an artist, who's really talented, who isn't a jerk, and who people actually like, imagine that. So, definitely a great pick. If you can find it, good luck.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just gotten down to the point.
But why isn't this on DVD? Is what I'm wondering, because I would like some extras that show what did she do after 1974? I mean, what's she doing now?
Yeah, she passed in '89, so
well, there was like 10 years. Did this movie help renew her career? I mean, it's nominated for an Oscar, but you can't even get it on DVD, which just shows
Wikipedia
how
didn't tell you anything, so I mean, that's where I get on my info.
Yeah, I don't know. So anyway, that was kind of frustrating, but we'll move on. So.
Oh, speaking of frustration, here we go. Okay, so we have on our website at realfilmsnobs.com, we have a segment there where you can click on and go to our viewers' picks, where you, the viewer at home, can ask us to watch a movie, and then we will critique that movie. Oh boy. Well, sometimes that backfires. And though we have some fantastic viewers out there who we just came to the show without, We assume you're out there. This week's pick is called Monsturd. Monsturd. You can read the picture there, a poster. And this was submitted by Dana and Tyler Henson. These are two gentlemen that I hung out with at the Overlook Film Festival this year, and we talked about bad movies. Oops. And he says, this is what they say. Brian, if you thought Meet the Spartans was bad, it was. Wait till you see Monsturd. This took honorable mention at our tri-annual Crappy Movie Day Festival, which sounds so much fun. After watching it, you think that those scary movie guys were involved with it. If you think you can handle it, check it out on Netflix Instant. And that is if you want to literally flush 80 minutes of your time down the toilet. Get it down the toilet, Monsturd. That's kind of how the dialogue is in Monsturd about an escaped serial killer who gets into the sewer system, of course, and is infected by some chemical waste that has been dumped into by the local.
Well, that description is so long that there's like 2 sentences to describe this movie. Wow.
And then he turns into the Monsturd and terrorizes the town.
It's a giant poop monster, folks. Let's just get real here. It's a giant poop monster film. That's all there is to it. There's nothing else to say, is there really? It's a giant poop monster film. I have nothing else to say about this.
There's no Transformers in it. It's not a Jerry Bruckheimer movie. It's not that kind of bad. This is just, I'm impressed. It's from 4321 Studios, who also made
Well, you researched it.
Retard Dead. That's the mentally challenged living dead. And, it's like Tromo movies. You got to appreciate the fact that somebody got together and was able to influence or pay enough people to get together and make a movie of this type.
The problem with the movie, though, there's too much talking. There's all these scenes with really bad actors. You want to see bad actors.
Talking.
They're sitting around discussing how they're going to go after the Monsturd. And I'm like, okay, if you're really going to watch this movie, let's just go all out for it then. I mean, at least with the Tromo movies, they know how to do that.
Yeah.
Just go out for the whole poop fest if you're going to do that. But they don't even
There wasn't enough poop in
there was
for
plenty
you? There was
still.
Plenty.
But the movie was 80 minutes, and it could have been about 0, and that would have been fine with me. I did not need to watch this, and I did not. And we won't even talk about watching movies on your lunch break. Not a good idea. If the title is Monsturd, I'm just gonna say it like that and leave it at that. So we have to wrap up, I think.
Okay, moving on. We'll
so how many stars are you giving it? 0, I hope, right?
Well, on Netflix it only let you go to 1, so I had to give it 1. They won't let you do 0.
I think there should be a 0 rating.
There is.
You obviously had a lot more fun with them than I do.
No, I'm having fun watching you say Monsturd. Okay, so wrapping up the show, we both were able to highly recommend The Town. We also highly recommend the Manhattan Short Film Festival playing here locally. We also want you to check out Angel Face, the old classic Otto Preminger film, as well as Antonia, Portrait of a Woman, is it? I put
Close enough,
yeah, good enough. Have good luck finding that one. And then, of course, we couldn't recommend Monsturd. But as always, we appreciate all the viewer picks, all the viewers there at home, as well as our crew here. And so visit our website at worldfilmsnobs.com and have a good day and great movies.